The Obamas left the White House almost 2 years ago. Can you believe it? But they don't want you to forget how awesome they were. Are. Well, with Michelle's current rock star-like book tour, the pair's global speechifying, and their deep ties to Hollywood celebs, they're hard to avoid. Last night, Barack Obama visited the Baker Institute in Houston, Texas, and he came off as a man who is obsessed with himself and obsessed with taking credit for another guy's, Trump's, success.
And by the way, American energy production, you wouldn't always know it, but you know, it went up every year I was president. And you know, that whole suddenly America's like the biggest oil producer and the biggest that was me, people. I just want you to. Sometimes you go to Wall Street and folks will be grumbling about anti-business. I said, have you checked where your stocks were when I came into office and where they are now? What are you talking? What are you complaining about? Just say thank you, please.
No, thank you. Obama's efforts at legacy building notwithstanding, the difference between the two presidents' economic records is stark. Andy Pudster, fast food exec and one-time Trump labor secretary nominee, wrote a fantastic piece in yesterday's Wall Street Journal. He compared the end of the Obama economy with the beginning of the Trump economy. Check this out. GDP growth staggered along at 1.5% in Mr. Obama's final 6 full quarters in office. But growth doubled to 3% during Mr. Trump's first 6 full quarters. The increase in jobs openings over Mr. Trump's first 21 months has averaged an impressive 75,000 a month. But over Mr. Obama's last 20 months in office, the number of job openings increased an average of 900 a month. Ooh. Well, during Mr. Obama's last 21 months, the number of employed Americans increased, not bad, an average of 157,000 a month. But under Mr. Trump, the increase has accelerated to 214,000 a month, a whopping 36% improvement. Unbelievable. Well, on top of that, we all know other facts, right? There have been record low African-American, Latino unemployment, credible rise in small business applications, and totally jacked up consumer confidence. You get the point. Obama's pathetic attempt to take credit for the fruits of his successor's policies, while Obama criticizes most of those, very same policies, is just patently ridiculous. And that's not the only thing, by the way, that doesn't wash in Obama land.
Michelle and I and our girls, we came out intact. And what I mean by that is that the core values that we brought into the office, pretty homespun values, tell the truth and try to see the other person's point of view and treat people kindly and with respect.
With respect? Excuse me if I laugh. Like all the respect his administration and he himself showed for any Obama critic?
Let me just make this point, John, because we're not campaigning anymore. The election's over. They have suspicions about whether government should make sure that kids in poverty are getting enough to eat. Think about how much better off our country would be if Republican politicians hadn't spent years precisely trying to scare voters.
That's all Republicans did. That was the nice stuff he said, by the way. And as far as his homespun values that he bragged about last night, values like, telling the truth.
If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
And Solyndra is going to be a really good investment. $500 million down the tubes. Well, Obama is spending his non-retirement pining away, let's face it, for that bygone era when liberals dominated all media platforms.
Whether it was Cronkite or Brinkley or what have you, there was a common set of facts, a baseline around which both parties had to adapt and respond to. And by the time I take office, what you increasingly have is a media environment in which, if you are a Fox News viewer, you have an entirely different reality than if you are a New York Times reader.
Oh, yeah, it is entirely different. We see the world as it is, while the New York Times and certain other networks sell their own version of reality. And oftentimes that version of reality is one where all those flyover people in the middle of the country, they kind of just fade away to be replaced by hipper, cooler progressives and maybe some socialist urbanites. Well, some of us on talk radio, and the president despises talk radio, we actually speak with the so-called deplorables every day. We actually saw Trump's victory coming, while the so-called erudites said, who live and die by every headline on the old gray lady, were confident right up until the end that Hillary Clinton was going to win. But the real reason Obama detests Fox, talk radio, pretty much any conservative website, is because he prefers life kind of the way it was or is today on college campuses. Well, you know, where diversity of thought is largely non-existent, and where violators of vague community standards are punished or shunned. And meanwhile, where sycophants and toadies, certain liberal ideals or people, enjoy special privileges and nonstop accolades from professors for their courage and their insight. Well, guess what? Millions of Americans are actually glad. They either didn't even go to university, or they're glad that they live now in something called the real world. They actually graduated, and they prefer news sources and commentary where their own values are not under constant assault and ridicule by the so-called elites. But Barack Obama kind of has contempt for a lot of those values, at least a lot of the values you and I hold dear, and he doesn't have all that much respect for any American who doesn't think like he does. Now, this line last night made it clear he hasn't learned much of anything since his snide, bitter clinger comments.
Adapt quickly enough to the fact that there were people being left behind and that frustrations were going to flare up. In those environments, you then start getting a different kind of politics. You start getting a politics based on a nationalism that's not pride in country, but hatred for somebody on the other side of the border.
Okay, so let me just get this straight. Anyone who supported Donald Trump, especially his immigration policy, border enforcement, and the like, is basically a racist, a xenophobic, bigot, or maybe you're just run-of-the-mill stupid hick. He has an interesting way of kind of saying, he doesn't come out and say it, but that's, you know, you don't be Einstein to read between the lines there. And at bottom, it's a negative and cynical view of about half of the American population currently. And you know, when you think about that dark, cynical view of America, you know what it reminds me of?
The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America? No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America that's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human.
I don't think that my church is actually particularly controversial. It's a member of the United Church of Christ.
No, none of it's controversial. Well, I guess you can take the man out of Reverend Wright's church, but you can't take Jeremiah Wright's mindset sometimes out of the man. Beneath all the polish and the smooth talk and the kind of side jokes, Obama still can't see that there are substantive reasons why not everyone loves him. Maybe not as much as people like Beyonce and Jay-Z do. And that's the angle. Here to react, Victor Davis Hanson, senior fellow at Stanford University's Hoover Institution and author of the forthcoming book, The Case for Trump, Howard Kurtz, host of Media Buzz, and Austin Goolsbee, former economic advisor to President Obama. So, Victor, let me start with you. Why does President Obama, he feels like has to always come out and try to rebrand his presidency? It seems really insecure. They always kind of claim, oh, Donald Trump's insecure. I mean, it seems like it's very insecure to kind of say, well, I'm the one who got all the oil stuff going, and I'm the one who did the... when the facts just, frankly, are not there in comparing the two economic records, as you see Pudsler do in the Journal yesterday.
Yeah, I think there's 2 points. One is the progressive mindset sees politics as a 360-degree, 24/7 operation or job. So the last day in office is the first day of another progressive career. We saw that with Jimmy Carter. Remember, he always had to comment and editorialize and travel when Reagan was president. During the two Bush's presidencies, Al Gore and Bill Clinton were quite active in criticism. And Obama's doing the same thing. For them, it's a nonstop activity. And, you know, they need to get a ranch. He should go to Hawaii and buy a farm and focus on Netflix. That's what Reagan went up to the ranch. W went to the ranch and let his predecessor be. And it's kind of an irony that we have an antithetical presidencies back to back, a progressive and a starkly conservative, and we need to let history adjudicate. You brought up facts, but the prior administration prognosticated that you need a magic wand to carry off what Trump promised, and Paul Krugman said the stock market was going to tank, and Barack Obama said you can't drill your way out of oil shortages, and Larry Summers, I think, said 3% GDP.
That was a fantasy. No, it was all a fantasy. It was all a fantasy. It was never going to happen.
Trump came in and said, no, I'm going to deregulate.
Yeah.
I'm going to do all these things. Yeah, and so let history decide. We're only 18 months into the administration. You cited the facts. Obama should stop relitigating the past and be empirical.
Let it play out.
And let history decide.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see in another 2 years. Yeah. I mean, maybe all this will go away. I certainly hope it doesn't. Howie, I want to focus on the media aspect of all this. It really is quite something, because a lot of the things they accuse President Trump of, thin-skinned, insecure, narcissist, boasting. I mean, the finger's always pointed back at you, I think the Buddha said. And it seems like when you watch Obama yesterday, he's cool, he's kind of back in the chair, and he's fun and stuff. But it seems like a lot of that going on here.
Barack Obama got the most gushing press since George Washington, and clearly he misses it, and he misses the spotlight. But he's got to give a rest to this golden oldie about Fox News. That record is so scratched up from being played so many times. He completely ignores the fact that there are all these liberal media outlets that make Trump bashing a 24/7 business model. Now, I'll give him a little more slack than you do, because all ex-presidents talk up what they think is good about their record. But a lot of it is the indirect shots at Donald Trump. He doesn't mention Trump's name since the midterm elections.
But come on,
but we all know when he talks about, well, you know, nobody near me was indicted, he's talking Paul Manafort, he's talking Mike Flynn. You know, this is the way he is trying, I think, to make himself look better at his successor's expense.
Why is offending half of the population a good strategy for expanding his influence into 2020, for instance? I mean, it's the same thing they always do. It's what Hillary did with the deplorables. He got away with it with the bitter Klinger thing because he was so good as a politician. But there are not many Obamas who are going to come around and be an Obama-type person. But Fox, talk radio, like they have pretty much everything. They have the universities, they have most of the churches, they have most media outlets still today, all newspapers for the most part. And that's still not good enough. That's what's stunning to me.
Right. Well, I think that, you know, Barack Obama's view of the world is simply that where he still can't believe that Donald Trump won the election.
He can't believe that all people don't love him, which is what they accuse Trump of. Trump gets mad if you slight him. If you criticize him even slightly, Trump reminds you of it.
Right. But he's probably feeling...
But that's what Obama does.
He's probably feeling slightly emboldened by the fact that the Democrats took the House, and he's saying, well, aha, now they're going to see that I was better than they remember.
Yeah, we'll see. Austin, this is what the president said. Speaking of the no indictments, he made this comment. Let's watch.
Not only did I not get indicted, nobody in my administration got indicted, which, by the way, was the only administration in modern history that can be said about. In fact, nobody came close to being indicted, partly because the people who joined us were there for the right reasons.
Oh, really? I mean, let's go through the list. I mean, short of indictments, Austin, Fast and Furious, IRS scandal, Solyndra, we blew $500 million taxpayers' money. Benghazi, we have a dead U.S. ambassador. Susan Rice went out there and said it was a tape that caused the deaths. The VA scandal, a disaster. Tens of thousands of veterans denied care. Shinseki resigns in disgrace. Oh, you know, of course, we had the OPM hack by the Chinese, which was a nightmare. And we could go on and on and on. So, yeah, no one was indicted. Maybe that's more You know, maybe it's more related to the fact that we had Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder in a Justice Department. I don't know. That's just a speculation.
I don't know. It seems like you got to kind of focus your fire there, Laura. You're
oh, really? They're facts. What are those facts? What are those facts?
What I will say is, well, I would observe two things. One, I agree with you. I agree with our discussion there. I would prefer if President Obama and all previous presidents kind of let it go, let the battles be fought not by the old administration, let the new administration, even if you think they're making mistakes, I don't think it's right for the president to be the one out leading personal attacks. You saw with the Bush administration, George Bush, he went to the ranch. Dick Cheney took a totally different approach. He was very critical by name, going after the administration. And I favor the Bush approach. I wish Obama were not being as critical as he is. That said, I don't think that it's an exaggeration when the president says there are more people being indicted and there have been more scandals under the Trump administration than there were under the Obama administration.
I understand what you're saying. Technically, that is true. However, what he's intending all of us to take away from that we have this ethical group. They were only in there to do good stuff. Well, I
was trying to do good stuff.
I'm not saying you weren't. See, we love you.
I started from the spot that I agree with you. Yeah. I don't think that the president should be the former president should be saying that about the current president.
Yeah. VDH, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say I don't think that's quite correct because the verdict's not out. Eric Holder was the first district attorney general to be held in contempt of Congress. Lois Lerner pled the Fifth Amendment. And we don't know what's going to happen with the Obama FBI, CIA, NSC, and DOJ officials because the verdict's not out on Bruce Orr. 8 to 10 FBI officials have already been retired or reassigned or may be facing indictment. The saga of James Comey and John Brennan, James Clapper is not over because we're looking at a situation where a presidential candidate hired a foreign national to find dirt on her opponent, and that dossier was seeded among top officials of the Obama administration. We haven't had an accounting, ethical, or legal yet, and it's coming.
And we didn't even have a chance to put that in our graphic, Victor, so you actually win the graphics award tonight. Thank you so much, guys. Great segment.